Okay, we are back in the shop. Got some hinges here that we're adjusting. By adjusting, what I mean is these are not expensive hinges. I ordered them on Amazon because I couldn't find ones of this size at my local shop. So these are just little butt hinges with recesses in them, obviously, and they're fine. They're solid brass. They are a 4-knuckle hinge. So even number of knuckles in there. The problem with these mass-produced hinges, what I've noticed in a lot of them is they're not square. So when you use them to mark out your mortises that you're going to put in your lid and case, if these are off and you're using these to mark your lines out on things, what'll happen is it just won't look very good and everything will be slightly off. And if your hinges are twisted in your box, when you screw your lid on and go to close the box, obviously the lid won't close true. So what I'm doing here is I've got my mill file back out again. What I do to start off with, kind of like truing up lumber, I go in, I put a little piece of paper in there to keep the gap that's in there evenly, and then I push this hinge up against the mill file again. If you've watched the card scraper sharpening video that I did, this is the same setup that I'm using this file for. So I know this is at a pretty close to true 90, and then what I'm doing is I'm just running this back and forth nice and light like so, and squaring up this hinge face so that both pieces are even, which I can see I've taken off all of the fake kind of gold looking stuff that they put on there. The next thing I'm going to do is I will set this up to square up my edges to this side, so then I know everything is a true 90. And then the last, what I'll do is I will go in with some sandpaper and I'm going to take off all of this fake kind of shiny looking brass stuff and actually get down to the real brass, which is much prettier, and go from there. Okay, we've squared up the front of the hinge in the previous shot there. So now what we have to do is we have to true up the 90 on this side. So what I'm doing is I've squared this piece of wood with my square, so you can see that this is a true 90. Basically making a shooting board. Not that I have one, but that's essentially what that is. Then what we're going to do is push that square edge against that. This little piece of paper is there just as a bit of a sled because the bottom of my file is rough, and if I just ran that on my vise, it would just chew a hole in it. So then what we're going to do is keep this nice and tight with just a tiny bit of overhang on there, press my file up against it, and then just do this. And what that's going to do is, if you can see there, I've squared that edge up. There's a little bit of rough stuff there. And then flip over, do the same thing. And I'm keeping constant pressure this way, and a little bit this way, but this way mostly to keep my 90-degree edge. And those are almost done. Let's do a little bit more here. That looks pretty good. So I'll keep going and I'm going to do the other hinge, which is right there. And then I'm going to do the other two extras that I have just for another project. I don't have to start working on those. And we'll go from there. All right, so all the sanding is done. And what I wanted to show you in this is these are the ones that I've sanded down and sanded all the coat off. And you can see, let's see if I do it this way, it'd be easier to see. You can see the difference between those two. This is the one that is sanded or polished, and this is how they came. It's a small thing, but because you're looking at these hinges on a box and it's front and center in your face and you're going to see them every time you open it, or your client is going to see it every time you open it, I think it's worth taking 20 minutes to change these from this kind of fake looking, I don't know, painted gold look to an actual warm brass tone. I much prefer the brass tone than this painted stuff. When you buy expensive hinges, these were, I think, $5. The expensive ones, they run like $35 from various manufacturers out there. They're already trued up, they already look this color, they don't have this weird patina paint thing, whatever it is that they put on it. So yeah, your call, obviously. You don't have to do this. I like it because it's just an added little touch. It makes the whole thing look a lot nicer. I'll also have to do the screw heads as well, but all I'm going to do with those, they don't need to be trued up. They don't need to be filed down or anything like that. I will just sand screw heads once I'm ready to finish these off and put them in for good. For the polishing, I'm using an 800 wet dry sandpaper, followed up by a 1500. Hand sand them. I'm not using any tools, any blocks or anything. The reason is because these you'll never be able to grind down flat, or you would, but there wouldn't be much material left. So I just use my fingers with a bit of sandpaper, and all I'm doing is taking the finish off. I'm not changing the thickness of the material. It's essentially polishing. And that's what I do for small boxes where you have these kind of hinges openly displayed. Again, up to you, do it or don't, it's all good.